Welcome to this session of agricultural economics, everybody. So today we are going to continue our lesson by starting our demand elasticity topic, right? So yesterday we have done our demand topic, as you all know, and we study various things in that, starting from what is demand, demand schedule, demand curve, law of demand, and many other things. So today we are going to continue that session and we are going to start what is known as demand elasticity. So demand, I think one major thing that we need to know here is demand is nothing but when a consumer wants to purchase something, he has a desire for something and that is backed with his ability to pay, right? So now starting that, again you can check all of these things in your Oliveboard app where you will get all the notifications instantly after downloading it. So starting with elasticity of demand. So the law of demand, if you remember, it states that quantity demanded of a good or service is inversely proportional to its own price. So what does it mean? Law of demand just states that quantity demanded is inversely proportional to its price, right? So it states only the relationship. All you can tell from this relationship is that quantity decreases when price increases and quantity increases when price decreases. This is all you can say, correct? But what can't we say here? We cannot, this indicates only the direction of change, right? So the law does not provide any information regarding quantity of change that occurs in the quantity demanded of the good or service due to change in price. So what they are telling here is, it only tells you which direction demand is going, whether demand will come down or whether it will go up when price is changing. See, change can include two things. Change can either be increase or decrease, right? So price can either increase or decrease. So the law of demand states that when the price changes, what direction the demand will move in. That is okay. It is giving us very important information. But it is not giving us by how much quantity it is going to change. It is not telling by how much quantity demand is going to change when the price is changing. So for example, if we know that price changed by 5% or price increased by 5%, by how much percent is the quantity demanded changing? Do we know this? We cannot answer this. We cannot answer this through just law of demand. So we need some other concept to answer these kinds of questions, where we need to quantify the amount of quantity demanded which has changed, right? So we need to quantify how much amount of quantity demanded has changed with the change in price. So to measure this, the concept of elasticity of demand was brought about. So who gave this concept? It was given by Alfred Marshall. He introduced this concept into the theory. So as quantity demanded depends on various factors, there are multiple types of elasticity of demand, right? So yesterday also we have seen in the demand function. So quantity demanded is function of P of X, then tastes and preferences, income, price of other goods and services, right? So it depends on various factors. So similarly, elasticity is there of different types depending on what factor we are studying, right? If you study elasticity with respect to price, it becomes price elasticity. If you study elasticity with respect to income, it becomes income elasticity. If you study elasticity with respect to prices of other related commodities like substitutes or complements of this particular commodity, then it becomes cross elasticity, right? So we will do that in the further slides and lectures. So starting, we will just see what elasticity of demand is. So it can be stated as degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price. So how responsive is the degree of demand to the price change that is happening, right? So you need to know whether the demand is very responsive, whether it is not at all responsive, we need to know. So when will we know this? When we can calculate with this much change in price, with this percent change in price, how much percent of quantity demanded is changing. Then we will get to know that how responsive the demand is. So being responsive means what? you are going to, let us say, if someone does something or if someone says something, you can respond, being responsive. So something is changing, right? According to something that is happening outside you, something that you are going to do is also changing. Similarly, when price changes, is demand changing? Is demand not changing? That we have to calculate. So that is known as responsiveness of quantity demanded to its price. So I hope everybody is clear with this. Moving on, price elasticity of demand. So when we calculate, or when we let us say, when we consider change in quantity demanded due to change in its price, right? So due to change, when I put this triangle, I hope all of you know this triangle means change. Okay, I can't write change every time, so I'll just put the triangle. So change in quantity demanded due to change in its own price, right? So then we say that it is price elasticity. We have learned that when price of a commodity changes, it leads to changes in quantity demanded. So now what we are doing is we are giving it one mathematical form. We are giving it a formula so that we can calculate it. Okay. So price elasticity of demand indicates the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a good to the change in its price. Other factors such as consumers' income, prices of related commodities that determine demand are held constant. So again I am going to repeat, when we saw the demand function, it was a function of price of its own, price of the own commodity, income of the consumer, and price of related goods and services. Here these two are going to stay the same. Only price of the own commodity is going to change, and due to this change we are going to measure what is the change in quantity demanded. Then we call it as price elasticity of demand, right? So how do we measure it? What is the formula to measure price elasticity of demand? So it's a very simple formula. It's a percentage formula which we can see here. It is represented as EP. So EP is percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. So when I say price here, you need to understand I am talking about price of it, the own commodity, of the commodity that is under consideration, right? So that is EP, that is price elasticity of demand. I hope this formula is clear. So what is price elasticity of demand? When there is a change in the price of the commodity, then there will be change in the quantity demanded. How much change in the quantity demanded is measured through price elasticity of demand, right? So for example, let us say there is a 5% rise in the price of sugar, right? So as you can see here, so there is a 5% rise in the price of sugar. So its quantity demanded fell by 10%. Clear? So its quantity demanded fell by 10%. So we know there was a 5% increase in price which led to decrease by 10% of quantity demanded. So now what is the formula? In the previous class we have, in the previous slide we have seen the formula. What is the formula that we saw in the previous slide? Right. So here percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. So what was the percentage change in quantity demanded? 10%. So what was the percentage change in price? 5. So this gives you 2. So your price elasticity is equal to 2. So in this case, so that is the same thing is written over here. But now can you see that this is a decrease in price, right? So this decrease in price, we need to give it a negative sign, and this decrease in quantity demanded, we need to give a negative sign, and this increase in price, we need to give a positive sign. That is what they have done. Because the quantity demanded is decreasing, we are giving it a negative sign, and because price is increasing, we are going to give it a positive sign. So your elasticity of price also becomes negative, minus 10 by plus 5. So it will become minus 2. So here we are getting the value as minus 2. But in general, in economics, we don't consider this minus sign. right? For any elasticity of demand when we calculate, we don't consider signs of the value. Why don't we consider signs of the value? Because we are interested in the quantity that has changed, right? We are interested in its magnitude. We want to calculate the physical quantity of change that has happened. We don't want to know what is the sign or anything like that. So that is why in general, to make the study easier, usually the sign is neglected. So we just say 2, 3, 5, 1, 0, whatever it is, right? So that is the meaning. Now, what are the different types? So there are, under price elasticity, there are three types, that is elastic, inelastic and unit elastic. So when I say elastic, I think all of us know about rubber bands, right? This is a very good example to understand, right? So you know about rubber bands, we know that they are elastic, okay? So if this is a rubber band, if it is elastic, even with less force, it will expand a lot, correct? Even with less force, it will expand a lot. But if the rubber band is very thick, like this, even with more force, it will expand only little bit, right? So please apply the same type of understanding to elastic and inelastic demand. So when percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price, we say demand is elastic. That means even with a small change in price, if large change in demand is happening, then we say demand is elastic. See, change can be anything. If there is a large change, if the price has increased by a large amount, then the demand should fall by a even larger amount, right? Because price has increased, demand should fall by even a larger amount, right? So then we say that demand is elastic. For example, if there is a 5% increase in price, then there should be a 15% decrease in quantity demanded. Then we say that demand is elastic. So can you see, quantity demanded, the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price, then we say it is elastic. The opposite is for inelastic. When the percentage change in quantity demanded is lesser than the percentage change in price. For example, again there is a 5% increase in price, but there is only a 2% decrease in quantity demanded. Then we say that it is inelastic, right? Because the percentage change in quantity demanded is lesser than the percentage change in price. Now, what is unit elastic? Unit elastic is the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in price. So, here if there is a 5% increase in price, there is a 5% decrease in quantity demanded. Then we say it is unit elastic, right? So here in the demand curve that we saw yesterday, so we all know that demand curve is downward sloping, right? So here the first curve that you see, it is elastic demand curve. So the price is increasing from P to P dash, the quantity is price is decreasing from P to P dash, the quantity is increasing from N to N dash. This P to P dash is lesser than this N to N dash. That's why it is elastic curve. So, elastic demand curve. Also, you can see the elastic demand curve is more flatter, right? So, you can write down the point if you want. The elastic demand curves become more horizontal. They tend to be more horizontal or parallel to x-axis than the inelastic demand curve. So, in the other curve that you can see, if you can see, the price is decreasing from P to P dash again, but here the quantity change N to N dash is very, very less, right? Even though the price change is same, P to P dash, here P to P dash is greater than N to N dash, right? So, here it is inelastic demand curve. If you can see, the inelastic demand curve is almost vertical. Here the elastic demand curve is almost horizontal. right? So here you can say it will be parallel to x-axis. Here you can say it will be parallel to y-axis, right? So this is how the demand curve is affected by the elastic or inelastic nature of the demand. So this variation in elasticity, there are three variations: elastic, inelastic, unit elastic. Why are there three types? So the main reason is because substitution is possible, right? So we have already learned what are substitutes, right? Let us study this with an example, right? So tea and coffee, right? So price of tea is there, quantity of tea is there, price of coffee is there, quantity of coffee is also there. Now, tea and coffee are considered as good substitutes. That means you can easily substitute tea for coffee, or you can easily substitute coffee for tea. That is the meaning, right? So, easy substitutes are available for each other. Now, what happens? Let us say price of tea increases. Okay, price of tea increases means tea becomes expensive. Tea becomes expensive. Then what happens? Price of tea dash, which is the new price. Let us say it is the new price. PT dash is greater than PT. That means PT dash is also greater than PC, right? So that means coffee is more cheaper now. Coffee is more cheaper. So obviously, wouldn't you buy something that is cheaper? Why are you okay with buying coffee? Because it is a substitute of tea. Because you can easily substitute coffee for tea. That is why you are okay to buy coffee which is cheaper, and it will give you the same level of satisfaction. Okay. So now because the price of tea increased and tea became expensive, quantity demanded of coffee will increase and quantity demanded of tea will decrease. Clear? So here what will happen? Quantity demanded of tea will decrease and quantity demanded of coffee will increase. Right? So here because they are easily substitutable, this change in price of tea has lot of effect on quantity of tea because they are substitutes. Now if I give you a scenario, same scenario, let us take the same scenario of increase in price of tea. Okay, let me just erase all this. Same scenario, there is tea, price of tea and quantity of tea, but then I am giving you mango juice, right? So price of mango juice, quantity of mango juice. Can I call tea and mango juice as substitutes? Are they substitutes? They are not substitutes, right? So if I tell price of tea has increased, price of mango juice has not increased, so price of mango juice is cheaper, you drink mango juice instead of tea. Will you agree? Are they good substitutes? They are not good substitutes. So even if price of tea has increased, there is no effect on quantity of tea because because mango and tea are not substitutes. So it is very important to understand that this variation in price elasticity is due to presence of possibility of substitution. It is possible to find a substitute for tea. It is possible to find a substitute commodity for coffee. That is why elasticity varies, right? That is why demand elasticity varies between the products, right? Now, what is perfectly inelastic and perfectly elastic? So, I would like to mention beforehand that these are extreme cases, right? So, what do you mean by extreme cases? they are not very realistic, or you cannot find them in the world or in reality, right? You can find close similarities, close instances, but you can't find the exact situation, right? So what is the exact situation? What is first type? Perfectly inelastic. So changes in price of good or service does not affect its quantity demanded at all. This one, this graph, no matter what change in price, whether the price increases by 100%, 200% or decreases very much, both ways, when price increases a lot, there is no fall in quantity demanded, and when price decreases a lot, there is no rise in quantity demanded. Both ways it is absolutely no effect, right? So for example is, you can take your insulin for your diabetes patients. No matter how much price will increase, they will still demand the insulin. They will still demand insulin because it is life saving for them. But suddenly if price of insulin drops, will they suddenly go buy more and inject more insulin into their body? No, they won't. They will still be injecting the previous quantity only. Just because insulin became cheap, they will not start purchasing more, right? So when we say perfectly inelastic, we mean those commodities whose quantity demanded does not change at all, even with any change in price. Okay. So what is perfectly elastic? Perfectly elastic means even small change in price, very small change, 1%, 0.5% change in price leads to drastic or very huge change in quantity demanded, right? So that means the product is perfectly elastic. Even a small change, even a small increase in price will drop the quantity demanded very much, and even a small decrease in price will increase the quantity demanded by very much. That is the meaning. So because these are extreme cases, their demand curves are also extreme. This is their demand curve. This is also demand curve. Okay. So in the perfectly inelastic case, the demand curve is perfectly vertical or actually horizontal to y-axis, and its value of price elasticity is equal to 0. And here in perfectly elastic case, the demand curve is perfectly horizontal, that is parallel to x-axis, and your elasticity, price elasticity is equal to infinity. Here it is equal to infinity, here it is equal to 0. Okay. Now, how do you measure price elasticity? We need a formula. So, this formula we know, percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price, right? So, once let us explain this formula, let us derive it. Change in quantity demanded by quantity demanded divided by change in price divided by the price. That is what they have put here. Change in quantity demanded by quantity by change in price divided by price. So, delta Q by Q by delta P by P. So, this will become delta Q by delta P. Sorry. This will become delta Q by Q into P by delta P, right? So, this will become this step, and once, because it is multiplication, you can rearrange it. Once you rearrange it, what will happen? EP will become delta Q by delta P into P by Q. This is your final price elasticity formula. I hope this is clear to everybody. This formula is the one which is basically used whenever you need to solve a problem. Okay. So now going further ahead, let us discuss some more topics. So yesterday we studied the demand function. What is the demand function? This is the demand function, that is QD is equal to A minus BP. We know QD is quantity demanded, and A is your intercept term, B is your slope, and P is the price of the commodity, right? So this is our demand function. Now because B is the slope, right? Because B is slope, what is it depicting? It is depicting rate of change of quantity demanded with the rate of change of price. This is what it is depicting, right? So delta Q by delta P. The same delta Q by delta P we saw in the formula for EP. EP is nothing but delta Q by delta P into P by Q, correct? So can't we substitute this with B? Then what will the formula will become? So EP will become B into P by Q, right? If you know the quantity, if you know the price, and if you know the slope, then what is it? The elasticity formula, it is EP is equal to P by Q, right? So I think that's it for today, guys. We did a lot of things. We did demand elasticity. I would like to tell you that because we are, going into the mathematical part and we are starting the concepts, I would like to take it little slow. If you could, if you guys want, even more, if it's okay, if you can handle further more concepts in the same class, kindly put it in the comment section, because I feel that, once you learn these topics, it's very important for you to practice with the formula, right? It becomes very important that you do that. So that is why I'm giving you very concise manner, so that you can go and study it well, so that you remember it well, and stuff like that. If you need any change in the length of the video or in how much content we are putting, kindly comment down below. But that's it for today, guys. I hope you had a good time. Thank you.